Wow, that's a lot to swallow. 5.6 million subscribers. Hello guys, how's it going? My name is Dalrin, and I'm going to try to make this video as short as possible because there's way too many things to talk about. I'm going to be talking about the WoW sub-drop. My discussion, I actually have a bulleted point out here is Blizzard, questioning of Blizzard's success, Blizzard the company, WoW numbers in comparison to some of the other factors, problems with PvP, casters, and Ashrun, Apexis crystals, raids, which self-explanatory, and I guess my thoughts of why some people left. What is the big reason? Then it's a question of what are the possibilities for WoW 2? Why or why not? And then I guess my last thoughts, which are going to be in ramble. I'm probably not even going to be able to get to my last thoughts. I'm going to be able to voice everything here. I'm going to cut out as much fluff as possible, but I don't want to edit the whole, discussion here. So let's get on to it. Is Blizzard unsuccessful, and is World of Warcraft actually dying? Well, while WoW isn't doing all that well, if you look at Blizzard, Hearthstone, everybody and their mother's playing it, literally. That game is pretty successful and everybody loves it. It's awesome if you haven't tried it. And Heroes is actually seen as a MOBA, and they're pushing for a more competitive scene for it. I think that's going just fine, honestly. Heroes is doing pretty well if you haven't tried it. It's a pretty fun game, pretty cool, pretty fun to get in, easy to get into. And then there's Hearthstone, everybody plays it. I love that game. It's so casual and it's drawn so many people in. It has one of the biggest followings on Twitch. The tournaments and championships and the people that make the big names themselves, they're all fun to watch. It made its own community and doing pretty well on sites like Reddit, I guess. I guess let's talk about WoW now. So Blizzard, I feel like is doing really well, and Overwatch, everybody who's played it just praises it. There's not a complaint about it, so I feel like Blizzard is doing pretty well as a company. To have a WoW movie, how many video game companies have made a movie that's actually good, and it's game-based movie that's actually good, using real life people that's actually good? Yeah. Feel free, comments. Let me know. Maybe I missed maybe there's a hidden gem that I missed. Let me know. Problem with PvP is, I guess, what a lot of people have complained. I guess since my channel is about PvP, we'll mostly discuss that. Casters and Ashrun. Changes with PvP and balancing, disbalancing as well. Some casters got nerfed to an extent. We've always had that through expansions. I played through Kata, MOP, and now in Draenor, and there's always been a disbalance. Some specs or classes altogether just completely inviable. Certain expansions. Resto Druid, you can play that in Kata, and God forbid you played a Shaman back in Cataclysm. And then MOP came out, and Shamans are pretty amazing, but then, Red Paladins suck. Rogues are pretty in bad spot at first. But things change all the time depending on the game and depending on the meta. They're having to balance 13 classes, 34 specs, and counting. And unless the other expansion offers a whole new class and specs with it, there's a lot of things to balance, as well as racials and trinkets and stats and how they scale in PvP. I mean, there's just a lot of things to balance in the game, and you can't always get what you want. You can't always get the most balance because you're just dealing with so many factors. A game like, let's say, Guild Wars has only so many classes, and so many classes have only so many viable, options. If maybe the game was balanced around, each spec has one viable, each class has one viable spec, or two, then there'd be an easier way to balance it around in PvP. You only balance the ones that are PvP viable, but then you're excluding other specs. So maybe, Subtlety, you can play all three specs PvE. Back in Kata, you PvP'd with sub, and you PvE'd with combat. You raided with combat, and you killed players with subtlety. And they made it right now, so most specs have more than one viable spec. I think it's pretty good for the game that's as complex as WoW. I think that's still pretty good. So I feel like the complaints are really just, yes, they can happen within the moment of within the expansion that they're talking about, or within this concurrent moment, because they don't like where their particular class is standing. But those people might not even do RBGs or 3v3, where that's where the balancing is in the game. There's just so many factors in the game that you cannot balance it in a 1v1 scenario. After a while, you just cannot do it. Like a Shadow Priest can't really do well in a 1v1, but if you see him tear ass in an RBG, all of a sudden they're the most OP class in the world, and everybody's just like, "Oh my god, nerf Shadow Priest." Well, they don't need to. It's just, the game changes, and I feel like with the changes, you just gotta adapt to them, and you gotta play the game, the play styles and the game modes where there's as many elements in there as possible, as many different forms of data as possible, where there's as many classes, as many players playing it as possible. 3v3 is pretty balanced, but 5v5 is not much. But RBGs are pretty balanced because you have just so many factors to create the balancing. Because you can't balance around just 1v1. You cannot. Yeah, you can try, but it'll be very difficult down the line. And it keeps the game fresh. Some classes can be just completely awful one patch, and then they're amazing the other because they got reworked. I think it's a completely fine thing. It's just part of the game, and it happens to every game as well. How many League champions can you think of that are just completely unplayed? League of Legends. And everybody's like, oh my god, League of Legends balancing is the greatest. And it's like, well, not really. Who the fuck plays Yorick? If you don't know who Yorick is, now Google it. Google who the fuck Yorick is. It'll be like, oh yeah, that guy. Completely forgot he was a champion. You know? There's always been problems with PvP. When it comes to PvP, there's balancing and you just gotta adjust things. But you can't always get what you want. And it's just, isn't that normal? I mean, I've played the game for a while, since Kata, and I've been used to, the fact that combat rogue is not the greatest. I adjusted to it. I adjusted to the playstyle, and I still get 2K playing a spec that was literally unplayable. What can I say about that? What can I say about that? I got it done in a 3v3 scenario where there's as much balancing as possible to give myself as much of an advantage. You just do Shia LaBeouf and just fucking do it. And I feel like there's just too many complaints. Just, oh my god, just people don't. I don't get it. Yeah, that's all I can say. That's all I can say. Just I feel like I shouldn't say more, just because I'll just make a mute point. Asher on top of it, nobody forced you. The only force there is a UI that says you can get extra conquest. They could have literally removed that, and you could have gotten it with a quest if you go to Asher. Nobody would have complained. You want to hear an example where they forced you to get, do something to get better gear? Raiding in Mists of Pandaria. Holy shit. If you get your full heroic dungeon set, unless you were Method, the raiding guild Method, one of the best raiding guilds out there, you would never have enough ability or even potential to get the raid done. You wouldn't have ability to do so. Unless you were Method. Because the gear and the scaling, you just have to have the most precise group, have the most amount of stats, have everything chatted, have potions and flasks and everything, just to get it done. So what you're forced to do is do rep grinds, like Apexis Crystals kind of style. And even Apexis Crystals doesn't force you to do any of that. You can get into your LFR and get into normal raiding pretty easily with gear that you can get from questing, or if you want to do rep grinds, you can. Then there's garrisons for, RNG chance to get a little bit better gear. Nothing is forced you to get better gear. The only thing with Ashen is a UI change. But you could get full raided, ready for raiding with Apexis Crystals, and all they did is they never told you have to. We're never forced to sit there and grind Apexis Crystals. And people still complain about them, so I just felt like people didn't play MOP and tried actual raiding. Because you had to grind multiple different reps in order to get pieces of gear that you wanted. You had to do PvP and get arena gear just to get a little bit extra stats in order to help you down that boss. You had to. It was not easy. But it was ridiculous at the same time. It wasn't like balanced. It was ridiculous. There was just no way of doing it unless you took the extra steps. And Ashen, I feel like you're not taking that many extra steps. You're just going in there. You're dealing with the fact that there's multiple people. You're dealing with the fact that you gotta change up your strategy. You gotta act as a group. You have to have a good leader, and you're rewarded. I feel like it's fine to be rewarded for doing something extra. It should not be given to you. No way it should be given to you. But you should be rewarded. I completely agree with that. I feel like people complain about, oh, I'm forced to do this. Well, you can't. You don't have to, but you will get rewarded if you do. Well, I'm gonna get a reward now. Why? I don't understand why. Why do you feel you deserve the reward just because you say you do? Well, pay $15 for a reward. Yeah, you pay $15 to enter, but what you do with your experience is all up to you, bud. That's honestly how I feel. Raids, I feel like raids speak for themselves. Raids were awesome in Draenor. Nothing I can say about that. I feel like a lot of people have left because they were just too tired to keep complaining. I really feel like the 5 million people that did leave from the beginning of Draenor, they were just, they didn't like it because, on hype, it's really hyped up there and then it just simmers down. And then I feel like everybody who's been complaining just left because they were too tired to complain. Now, a quick question. Would WoW 2 work? Why or why not? What I've heard from people, what if it has a better, more dynamic game engine, that's not outdated, which is something I've been hearing often. What if it had a dodge roll mechanic? Oh, what if you could swap weapons so you could change a whole playstyle in a single class, in a single swoop? What if ratios didn't matter at all? What if you had huge dynamic events where a dragon attacks out of nowhere and you gotta get everybody in the zone to band together? Have you played Guild Wars 2? You literally described me Guild Wars 2. Go save your money. If you're really just that tired of WoW, save your money that you normally buy, 15 bucks a month. Save a couple of weeks and buy yourself Guild Wars 2 and play it up to max level and try it yourself, bud. I tried that game. I gave it my very best shot. I played Thief with 2 pistols and every weapon. I played Warrior. I played Mesmer. Played the classes. I didn't get into that game. It did not have what WoW had, and what people are looking from WoW is that nostalgia moment. Like when you first time play Skyrim. Whoa, these dragons are scripted. Whoa, these NPCs feel so real. It feels like I'm in a real world, and everybody's just acting depending on what I'm doing. And eventually you see mechanics in a game. It's just a game, and if you play it for long enough, you see mechanics. It's not a living, breathing world where it's a world where it revolves around you, the character. It's not that living or breathing. It's not that realistic. And you figure it out. I just start playing a game. I feel like that's just the natural things of how you do it, how the game goes. When you figure out these things, you can use them to advantage to get better at the game. I feel like it's not a bad thing whatsoever. So, yeah, that's really all I can say, guys. I feel like WoW 2 wouldn't really do it. I feel like for some people, they would want that nostalgia back, but it wouldn't give you the same feel. It'll be like another MMO out there, even if you try to make it a lot like what Guild Wars 2 is. Would you really like Guild Wars 2 with skin of WoW if you played Guild Wars 2? Would that really make the game that much better if it just was skinned, but it played just like Guild Wars 2 and felt like Guild Wars 2? Because that's what people are describing Guild Wars 2. I don't know. I don't think so, dude. On top of it, if you look at WoW numbers, its success or its worst numbers are better than some of the other games out there. Guild Wars 2 numbers, the highest peak they had of people online at the same time, concurrent players, over like 400,000. WildStar, down on the dumps. Arcade is actually pretty transparent, and they said we have 2 million accounts, not concurrent players, but accounts registered with us. And there's Final Fantasy, who's like, oh, we have 4,000 accounts. No, we have 4,000 subscribers. No, we have 5 million subscribers. And then it's like another article goes and says they have less than 1 million of concurrent players on 3 different platforms of theirs. Final Fantasy 14, 11, and some other game. Let me see what that is. Dragon Quest 10. I literally have the article right here. So I don't know. It's weird seeing WoW numbers low, but you know. I guess completely reasonable to an extent, but I feel like there's too many people that are just tired of complaining, just finally leaving. And I mean, I haven't complained really. Yeah, there's some negatives, but for the most part, I've been seeing the expansions not that bad. It's not the worst. It's not the ridiculous difficulty. Mr. Pandaria was a little bit difficult to an extent, but that's when I'll start playing my rogue, and I love difficulty. I liked it. So I don't know. Just a lot to think about. Leave me your comments and thoughts in the description below. I kind of regret making this video, but I'm going to put it up anyway. They're just my honest personal opinions just being, funneled onto this video. Whatever you agree with, whatever you don't agree with, feel free to comment below. Say whatever you want to. I'm not even going to respond. Say your thoughts. And yeah. Yeah, I don't know. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. Hopefully it got you thinking. Voice your opinions. I'll see you guys next time I make a video.